assist you?
Wendy Mocke is an award-winning Papua New Guinean interdisciplinary storyteller and a NIDA Acting graduate working across live performance and film as an actor, writer, and visual artist. Samoan-Maltese-Australian producer Jessica Magro founded Purple Carrot Entertainment, an independent production company committed to telling the untold stories of misrepresented Australia. Bad Ancestors is a satire and Black comedy that centers on two best friends, millennials who haven't figured out life and adulting. Wendy and Jess, thank you so much. And I mean it, I mean it, I mean it. I am very excited and welcome to the For Your Reference podcast.
We are the most excited.
We are beyond excited. Thank you so much for letting us come here and kiki and hopefully just like spill a lot of tea.
It's scorching. It's hot. We need to prepare everybody. But I am so excited to talk about the achievements and especially Bad Ancestors as well, but even both of your careers. We could be here until 2025, and that's what you and all of us deserve. Personally. But before we even get there, our audience is mostly in the United States. So even explaining Pacific Islanders as a broad sort of people is its own challenge. And then to drill down to like Black Pacific Islanders. So I kind of want to frame and start off our talanoa with you, Wendy. You've been quoted as saying that you want to make alive what is quiet and asleep in Melanesian stories and unpack the myriad of layers that is the Black Pacific Islander identity. If it's okay, I would love to hear you speak on that for a little bit.
Yeah, of course. I selfishly enough write and create things where I see that aren't there for, someone like myself who's from Papua New Guinea. And being that a lot of what we consume and what we see on screen, on stages, reading even in our literature, I think is focused on a particular part of the Pacific Islands and not really inclusive.
You can say it. It's Samoans and Tongans always getting in the way.
Yeah, listen, look, it's very Policentric. Yeah, and that is okay because the colonizers are the ones that came over and divided us all. And so I think a lot of times we as in Melanesians get left out of the conversation.
Yeah.
And so my focus is to kind of rip apart those stereotypes and those Western lens that have been placed on us, but also be just to kind of like open it up. The Pacific Islands is so massive. We are we're so diverse. And so I want to be able to celebrate that and be able to tell stories and be able to like talk about experiences that aren't necessarily attached to people like us where we're from. And also just like to be silly and be brave and bold we can possibly be while being Pacific Islanders and also being Black.
Yeah.
At the same time. And funny that I always get into like Twitter beefs.
I love like you are worldwide famous.
Oh God, no. I'm just like
in the best way.
It's just listen, I'm gonna go there. How many minutes in are we?
You're like, who hasn't been read that needs to be read today? It's been a while.
Listen, let me just go there. The way that people are hard to understand that Blackness exists outside of America.
Yeah.
And it's like I get into these beefs all the time because there are certain groups on Twitter that stay saying that Melanesians aren't Black and there's no Black Islanders, and like it's that whole bin fire of a conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so interesting, and obviously we won't get into detail, but the singer Tyler identifying as colored, and Americans are like, no, you're Black. And it's like, actually, there's so much texture, there's so much complexity.
Yeah, there's so much nuance to this. And also like you're kind of colonization took place in so many parts of the world, not just in one part. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not, you're minimizing the effects of colonization that has globally on Black people.
And I do hope we have the time to talk about, because I was born and raised on Darug land. So, even if you turn on a TV now, it looks like the way it did decades ago, but that's a story for another day, or maybe it's a story for today. But even talking about seeing the stories that we have, I feel like today in this Talanoa, we do have a very unique opportunity to speak to established as well as emerging Pacific Island creatives that will benefit from tapping in or gaming the game. So I'd love to hear a little bit about the Fresh Blood Initiative and how it works.
Absolutely. I think you're right. Initiatives like this are really important. I mean, we could talk about representation for days. But yeah, I think it is a really cool opportunity to talk about the fact that initiatives like this allow people who are misrepresented or underrepresented to have a shot. And so Fresh Blood is a program between the ABC and Screen Australia, and specifically a comedy initiative. It's been running for a while. A lot of massive shows that you'd know that I can't remember off the top of my head have gotten up from this initiative. So it's really competitive, but it's also really beneficial. It gives projects legs, like actual legs, because there's a lot to be said about initiatives, which is again another conversation. But what's really valuable about this one is that you actually get funding to create shorts that get released through YouTube on the ABC's YouTube channel. And so rather than kind of going away and developing something that's short form and not really being useful post the initiative, this actually allows you to put something out into the world to show off us, the work, the stories, all of the above. Like we can actually take that out to market and do something with it. Because short form is tricky. Short form, and when I say short form, I mean like, 10, or 6 10-minute eps, or, in our case, 3 5-minute episodes. One of ours is a little bit longer than that, but, or maybe 2, but, but that's short, you're not watching that stuff on Binge or Netflix, when you go onto, streamers or even commercial television, you're watching either half hours or hours. And so hopefully what will happen is stage 2 of this initiative is that you pitch for a half-hour pilot. So actually Bad Ancestors is a 6-by-half-hour comedy series, but we've had to create 3 5-minute shorts to showcase what the show is through this initiative to hopefully then get the pilot up off the ground with the ABC. So that's the goal, fingers crossed.
And it's so interesting, and we'll talk specifically about Bad Ancestors in a second, but it's so interesting to have the actual commentary of being embedded in those spaces. And then shout out to Hanel Harris and the team at CIS, because it reminded me of CIS and the fact that if we definitely need to talk about it, but Bad Ancestors is the only Pasifika project in this particular sort of intake, right?
Yeah.
Big question. Feel free to go wherever you need or just stay at the base of this mountain. But does it feel like an uphill battle to deliver being the only Pasifika project, or is it more of an exciting opportunity to build a foundation for more stories to come?
It's no secret that, this is basically going to be the first of its kind. Like we don't have Pasifika Australian representation on our screens really at all. I can't.
Made by centering, humanizing.
All of the above. Exactly. I mean, what we might be a supporting character in a show once every 3 years. Like, I can't remember his name, but that was on Bump. Like that was really awesome to see him, get like quite a cool supporting role on Bump. But it's like, it's few and far between. And, we're not writing our own characters either as well, like it's not for us by us. So yeah, representation is a big thing. And so this being the first is a big deal because we're able to say, we can tell our own stories, and not only can we do that, but we can do it fucking well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think like there's a lot of pressure that comes with that. I mean, I don't know.
No, yeah, absolutely. I try to stop my brain from going there, because then I put myself in this high pressure sort of having to, and oftentimes we find that we are the only, having to hold our entire culture on our backs. And for me, I personally try not to do that, because I try to stick to the creative of everything, but I also just, I see us at the center all the time, point blank, period.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And so I try to always lead with that, and that I don't think these are like necessarily unusual things, because like stuff like this happens to me and my friends and people that I know from all the time, like in terms of, so I'm talking about the story of it all, and more particularly in the creative of it, and creating these like things that aren't necessarily seen or produced very often. And so I try not to get into that, and I, automatically you look at the when the announcement gets made and you see that all the teams that have been picked up. It's hard to kind of be like, oh damn, we're the only ones, huh?
And we always are the only ones. There can only be one. There can only be one. There can only be one Pacific Islander project. Like there can only be one, any diverse group of people up against white folk. It's always the way. We are constantly in competition with each other, and that's what sucks. But that's not on us, that's on them. That's on the industry.
Absolutely on the industry. And and I just I think it's just such an honor and a privilege to be working with other Pacific Islanders in the creative team, other Black creatives, brown creatives, like, working together on this. It just fills me with so much pride, but also excitement and wanting to go out there and do more and engage with more other creatives like us, but also it's a whole new audience that people apparently the industry didn't know existed.
Apparently.
Knock, knock.
Yeah.
We're here.
We're here. Okay.
Yeah, you don't need to let us in. We're going to let us in. You know how you do.
The facts.
Yeah,
right?
We're just going to let ourselves in. That's fine. We've talked about industry stuff, which I think is very valuable, especially to emerging creatives for Pasifika, people especially in so-called Australia. But I kind of want to talk about the creativity. And Wendy, you said something that I want to pick up on. When you're creating, you try and focus on the art as opposed to, is it sellable? Is it packageable? Is it understandable? Does it pander? Does it have a Sandra Bullock in it? Like, does it have what we need it to have? How is it being able to create art? Is it hard to shut out the fact that it might not be considered or regarded in the way that you need it when you're inside of that creating process?
Yeah, look, it is. It is. I think initially early stages when you're in the creation like phase of it all. Personally, I just lead with what my gut tells me without any sort of like, oh, we haven't heard from like this community, or like if we put this character, what does that say about this? Like all those which are like really important things to dissect when we move to the later stages. But initially I just go with my gut. And I think that's always led me into the right direction. Because I think like, now we have bad ancestors. And I think that comes from like this hunger, right? And this like desire to want to see particular stories from our communities that like people don't even associate with us. Which I'm just like, you don't understand. Everybody I know has had some fuck shit like this happen, or some wild, bizarre thing that's completely random and like chaotic. And it's like, why don't we just go there, balls to the wall? Let's just like tell it. And I'm a big like I've got this little post-it. This sounds really wanky, but on my wall, I've got this little thing that I wrote to myself. It's like, you can think I'm small, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I think small.
There we go. And
so I don't let those things try to stop me from writing what I want to write, or creating a world that I see, that I know that at the pulse of it, my people exist in this way.
Yeah. Well, let's make a declaration, because if this doesn't come a TV show, I'm standing outside of all the offices and being wherever I need to be, because this needs to happen. And I just want to touch on the fact that we are essentially on a global stage. Hopefully we get to a point where globally, our friends and lovers can digest bad ancestors and potentially like different iterations of bad ancestors around. But what I really loved about Bad Ancestors is you didn't feel the need to be like, oh, we're Melanesian, oh, we're PNG, this is us, this is who we are, to have to explain to, or even just like people in Australia that don't really have any sort of overlap and that sort of thing. Was that a conscious sort of thing, or is it just like, I'm just going to write it? If you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't.
Yeah, look, I think initially, if I just like, I'm just going to write it out. I'm just going to write it out and see what falls onto the page. And then afterwards, obviously in the edits, there was more conversation. But then I'm just like, there are certain conversations that I think we're beyond. And I don't necessarily want to cater to an audience.
Yes, Wendy, we're here. Catch up.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right. I'm like, I know my people are there. And the rest of y'all can catch up whenever you're good and goddamn well to catch up. But now we're here and we start here and we're just going to keep moving forward. And there are certain things that, like I don't need to explain for you more. Yeah, find out your own damn selves.
That's right.
Yeah. Sorry, that's a little bit spicy, but
No, I love that. It's just like, I'm not here to baby you. We're here. We're talking here. Meet us here, or go into another room and learn it. And
not enough of catering to white folk. Like we've been there, done that. You know, if we're going to tell a story, it's going to be our story, our way. So I think we're at a really exciting time where, you know, people try to say, oh, you know, you're not ready, you're not established, you're emerging. You know, people of color get stuck into that box in the industry where you just don't get taken seriously enough, you don't get the funding, all the rest of it. But we're at an exciting time now where we've proven to the industry that we're more than capable. And now we're starting to, you know, get the opportunities to showcase that. So.
And even just like defending like jokes, like because they don't get it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, just because you don't get it,
that's right.
Yeah.
I mean, the people that we know this is for aren't going to get it. You know what I mean? So it's very intentional in that way. Yeah.
It's like, I've explained it to you. My sisters have explained it to you. What aren't you getting, babes? If we've explained it to you, what's the problem?
Like, catch up.
My partner OT is Kenyan, and he had a great time. He didn't need that sort of like shorthand of understanding sort of things. We were just in.
That's amazing.
We loved it. We need more, but we love the screeners that we got for Bad Ancestors, and it felt effortless, I think is the best way to summarize what we have for Bad Ancestors so far. From a storytelling process, the premise was very succinct and it was very clear. So when you were doing the storytelling, when you were creating Bad Ancestors, what was it like making sure, even if you're not explaining to the audience who you are and, you know, what we're doing, what was it like to make sure you have a clear premise and then also ensure that the humor and, you know, the giggle gaggle ha ha hee hees are in the story as well?
Yeah, look, it's such a it's such a like a big world. And so the challenge of it was, because it is a short form series, was to really kind of move it into this sort of like this abandoned sort of office space, and where these two silly best friends find themselves in the afterlife. And oh my god, am I allowed to say it?
Yes,
Can we just like say okay, great. We was like, oh my god, I don't know if I know.
You can say whatever you want, really.
And so we had to kind of really get to the like the heart of it all. Is like, okay, who are these two people? How are they friends? Because we really want, I think the heart of Bad Ancestors and the strength of it is seeing these two best friends, kind of like millennial best friends, just kind of like try to adult, but also kind of go situation by situation without fucking it up. And so I kind of really was trying to get to that's the challenge of doing or writing in a short form, is getting to the guts of it, but also having the right amount of comedy, and also the right amount of heart as well. Because we want to, and I think that explains our community, is that we're just really funny people with a lot of fucking heart. And I just to really get to that in a short period of time was the biggest challenge. But I think I'm hoping that people that is going to shine through, and people are going to be able to kind of really feel and see that.
100%. I just want to say Wendy is a fucking incredible writer. And that is absolutely part of it. I'm just going to give you your flowers for 1 second. Because that's why the shorts are really strong, because, you know, if anyone out there is an aspiring writer or is, you know, making short films, you'll know, like, taking anything that's a big idea, a big world, and squeezing it into short bites is one of the hardest things you could do. It's like you could write a feature-length script, but coming up with that one sentence log line is the hardest part. to do that takes a lot of craft, a lot of skill, and just to even make it good is one thing, and then to add the heart, add the comedy, you know, have all of that really shine through is it comes with good writing. And so, you know, that's what has me so excited, is because Wendy is really bringing these characters to life and doing it, you know, giving them the justice they deserve at the same time.
Oh, thank you. I'm just gonna sort of, you know, what's Pasifika? We're gonna be on our humble shit, you know.
I just want you to live in it and to, you know, marinate in that, Wendy, because you absolutely deserve it. And 2024, we're just going to love on each other and we're just going to support each other. And that's exactly what it should be. And, you know, even talking about bad ancestors, like comedy, heartfelt, like genre, who is she? If you're telling great stories, it's everything. And even, you know, like interdisciplinary, it's just who we are. It's the stories we tell. It's everything. It's just a way to say, we express ourselves in different ways.
Literally.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. We're not defined by one thing, you know, and that's the thing. And that's how we've managed to preserve so much of our culture, is that we're so fluid, you know, and culture is meant to be fluid. You know, we change, we're shapeshifters, we celebrate life and our people in so many ways. And I think like that just comes naturally to us. Yeah.
Even the balancing all around is so great. I made notes, but I won't share them because a lot of it is me cackling over the dialogue in Bad Ancestors, especially because they are so short, but I'm just like banger, 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 banger. It's all great. Were there any banger lines or scenes that you loved that you had to leave on the cutting room floor that perhaps you could share?
Yeah, I'm dirty with Jess on one, and
okay.
No. We're just guys, like this is actually the moment that I'm using now to know.
It's an arbitration, yeah.
This is court. All right, let's have a trial. There were some moments, and like again, because it is a short form, and you know, you could like I say, this is a big world that we're playing in. And, you know, I think having to stick to the time constraints, there were some moments.
Yeah. I mean, the scripts were 10 pages, and like, you know, for reference, it's, you know, on screen is like a minute a page. So
okay.
So they were long. Like if we're gonna come for each other, let's come for each other.
Yeah, you know.
So we were already starting with long scripts.
We say we're loving each other, but it's like Pacific Islander love. So it's tough love.
Yeah. Drag me with love, please. Drag me with love.
So yeah, it's always a balance, but this is the production as a whole, you know, like making any kind of content is one of the hardest things you could do.
Yeah, and I'd like to also point out as well that like having Jess be really
drag her, sis. No, I'm kidding.
Oh yeah. Wow.
Ding, round two.
Things are real. No, having Jess really be really part of the process, and honestly, like really keep me in line was exactly what we needed. Yeah, because you have to right till the cows come home, you know. And it was really Jess. I'm really fortunate and privileged that Jess got what this show is.
Yeah.
Because this show's been floating around for a few years now, and I just like heard, you know, Jess and I met through the another initiative, and I was like straight away was like, oh, this is another Pacific Islander woman in the industry. We need to like link up and create magic together and show each other and our communities love along the way. And so, like a huge blessing to be able to have Jess sort of at the helm, and putting together probably one of the nicest teams I have ever had the privilege of working with.
So lucky.
Being on set for those days, and
shout outs. Let's do some shout outs.
You know.
I mean, we were so lucky to work with a majority BIPOC crew. It's true what Wendy said. Like we had the most amazing crew. So we have Vanilla Tupu, who was our director.
Shout out to Vanilla.
Jessie DeVars, who was an incredible queer POC editor. We worked with Luca BP, who was a super well-known DOP down on Gadigal land.
Lifesavers.
We had Yasmin, our iconic hair and makeup.
Iconic. Obsessed with her.
Who else? I mean, Hiba Ali, who was our,
Shout out to Heba.
art director, Rizal, who y'all, I hope know from the socials, who was our assistant producer and basically all of the above.
Brilliant.
Just an absolute queen of production. So yeah, we had a really killer team that helped us bring this to life.
Shout outs to the team, and this also goes back to the two of you as a dynamic duo, is it needs to be done with a lot of love. And you said that as well, Jess. Like, you need to make sure, and it's kind of like a family. Like, I love my sister, but we tell each other what we need to tell each other. And that's how it feels hearing you guys create Bad Ancestors.
I think so. I think, like, you can operate in this industry and be really gatekeepy. And there's like, the industry is like, there are systemic issues that kind of encourage certain behaviors. And I think, like, as Pacific people, just inherently, we're not like that, or at least I hope not. And so, that kind of energy is what we try to just put out into the world, is like, we're already up against it. So let's just, ride the wave together, like, literally, like, let's support each other and do this together, because there is room for all of us, even though the industry tries to tell us there isn't, with, always being like there only ever being one. And so, yeah, I think like, just, and I could be an asshole. Like, we're not all going to get along, like, but it is, I very much do believe it is about finding your people, finding people who just get it, get the stories you're telling, or get your way of working. And if you were like, and that goes across the board, like, and on any project, because if no one's aligning, you're going to tell when you watch it. You're going to be like, okay, this is so confused. And it's because the people who made it were confused. So, if you're finding your people in your community and people who, understand the story, which we so luckily had, and very grateful for the team that we had behind Bad Ancestors who brought it to life. But yeah, it all starts with Wendy. So, once it's on the page, it's up to all of us to take it from there and bring it to screen. And so.
And there's something really special, being able to, like, walk on set and seeing the team. I don't know if it's just, I'm just, sentimental, but, you just look at the team that Jess has sort of, has put together, and you just already feel that we're doing something really special, and B, what a privilege it is that we get to do this together. And
it's
so
it's the proverbial taking your bra off and feeling super comfortable, right?
Yeah,
it's a safe place.
It's a safe place, and you just know that there are certain things that don't necessarily conversations you need to have that you always find yourself having. Like, people are just, we're there already, and so we already have this language that because of shared lived experiences. You know what I mean? And so I think, like, sometimes this stuff is intentional, that they don't want us to be working together and doing amazing things. But I think
cloak and dagger shit.
Yeah, right. That's exactly it. And so I think, being able to use the Fresh Blood initiative to be able to see that happen, play out, and have the opportunity of doing that is important, but also really special for each and every one of us.
And says to everyone watching and observing, you can do this too. Like, you have the capacity. It doesn't matter how much the industry is going to tell you you don't, you do. And there's people here who can support you. Like, we are a family, like, on a project, but also just on a community level in the industry and out of the industry.
Yeah.
But very much in the industry.
Like, being delusional works, guys.
Period.
You know what I mean?
It's a collective Delulu.
Yeah, shout out to all the Delulu girlies. Get your bag. Do your thing.
But this is what I love. And this is the first time I've met both of you, which is so wild, because it feels so effortless and it feels so great. But it's one of those things where, at least for the way that I see the both of your careers, and even talking about Bad Ancestors, it's when we come up, we all come up together.
Period.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think I'm a big believer of, like, wherever you go, you bring your ancestors with you, right? And I think inherently our people are with us. Whatever room, whatever table we're sitting at, we're a package deal, guys.
Yeah. And speaking of the cast and crew, was it a conscious thing to bring people on board, or was it just so natural of networking and being a part of the creative space?
Wendy cast the whole show.
I mean, a lot of these, I'm very fortunate that I have, being an actor, have like lovely actor friends. I don't know why I'm saying it like, listen, there's a lot of talented people out there I was just really intentional in being able to get like, I knew that they could do the job, really funny, and also just good humans.
Yeah.
Really lovely people to work with.
The best.
And so I think that for me is always like a leading thing. I just want to work with like really solid humans. And then the crew is all just as beautiful work. Like, you know.
So it's team effort. Like, and that's the thing. And the exciting thing about collaborations, because filmmaking is collaboration. Like, you cannot make a film on your own. I mean, you can, maybe a stop motion, but like, you know, like generally you need a team. Like, filmmaking is a team sport. And so that's why it's really important that you're working with people that you trust, that get it, all those things I said before, because you need to lean on each other like you do your family. Like, your project is your baby, you know, and so you're bringing all these people in to kind of, everyone's going to touch it in some way, shape, or form. And so, yeah, it's important that everyone aligns. And so I think, you know, it's been amazing working with Wendy, because yeah, we've been able to figure out what we can both bring to the project and tag team it. And, you know, working with Rizelle's the exact same thing, who was my assistant producer, because, yeah, you need a team, you need a family to bring something like this to life. So yeah, bringing together really cool, talented, clever people is the dream.
Yeah.
We did it.
You did it. You, Ariana DeBose, you did the thing.
Yeah, I'm just going to give us our own flowers for 1 second.
I love it. Because we've talked about industry, we talked about creativity. Even for me, and I love film, producer is that elusive sort of like enigma in the shadows behind the scenes that I assume does any and everything.
Yeah.
Is there a way to succinctly describe what a producer does, or specifically on Bad Ancestors, what you did, or what was out of your reach, or was it everything?
Trust. My mum still doesn't get what I do. I mean, I think that's anyone who works in the film industry. It's like, what do you actually do? Like, you go to work and do a bit of this, and then you go home. But yeah, producing, I mean, the easiest way to explain it is you're responsible for the project from start to end and beyond. Because I think like what a lot of people don't realize is that when you make a film or TV show and it goes out into the world, that's not the end of its life. Like, there is still a lot of stuff that happens behind the scenes. You might be pitching it like we are to get, you know, the half-hour pilot up, and hopefully a series. Like, there's just a lot going on behind a project and behind what you kind of see on your screen. And yeah, a producer is responsible for everything. But that is why it is a team sport, because yes, the responsibility sits with the producer, but that is the you know, the framework is that you bring in a trusted cast and crew who help bring that to life. And so, yeah, if shit goes down, you know, if something happens on set, you're over budget, you know, the schedule changes, whatever it is, yeah, that comes down on the producer. So yes, it might look like a really glitz and glam job from the outside in, because you're like, oh, wow, like you get control over everything. But like, that's not what it's about, at least for me. For me as a producer, I operate in a way that's like, I want to be a true collaborator in the process, and I want to leverage the creative that I'm working with and the creative works that I'm a part of. Like, I want to contribute, but also, you know, elevate and amplify it at the same time. So yeah, I know it is a bit of a hard job to explain, and until people do it, they're like, oh, I hate this. Like, this is what producing is. Like, you don't just get the money and like get to run around. Like, it is not that. It is very much legals. It's accounting. It's, yes, the creative is a huge part of it, but there's a lot of other stuff.
Couldn't be me.
And, you know, the credentials of it all, we are focusing on Bad Ancestors, but for our friends and lovers that are tuning in that aren't aware, Jess is a filmmaker as well. And, you know, many moons ago, the Pasifika Film Festival, I watched her short, The Alexander Ball, tens across the board, Bad Ancestors as well. But I just wanted to point that out as well, because you've achieved so much, Wendy, you've achieved so much. but the overflowing generosity is something that, you know, maybe it should be taught, but it can't be taught usually. It's something that's innately poured out as well.
Yeah, period. I mean, thank you so much. That's so nice. But I think, yeah, that's all part of it. Like working in the arts just in general, like, you know, Wendy is a playwright as well. So Wendy jumps between playwriting and screenwriting, which is
award-winning, yeah.
Guys, you know,
award-winning. Yes. And so
let the funding reflect.
yeah, let the funding reflect.
But, you know, I think that there's a part of it that's like, you know, we're always having to work 10 times harder. Like that's not a secret. Like, you know, when you're a minority in any industry, like the pressure is on for you to deliver, like not just deliver, but deliver. And I think like we've had that energy the whole way through, even on Bad Ancestors, but in any space we're in, it's like we need to be operating at a higher level than everyone else because, yeah, we're the only ones, but also we know we have the pressure of being the only one and being like, this is an amazing opportunity and a privilege that I can't waste. So it's like all of this kind of pressure weighs into it. So yeah, it's nice to be able to, I guess, share in that in a collaboration. Yeah.
I live in a lot of times I lead with a little delusion. And so Jess is really good for living in reality and being like
yanking
this is actually, and I'm like, what do you mean?
I mean, we're a good team. Okay. We get each other. So I think, and yeah, like I've said a million times, that's really important. So like find your people and like shout out to Jessie, who is the editor of Bad Ancestors, who also edited the Alexander Ball. Is just such a generous and very talented human being who, and like editing, just shout out to the editors because people don't realize how much of what you see on screen comes down to the cutting room floor. Like it comes to the edit. And so, you know, Jessie has really come through for us and has done an incredible job. And that's on BIPOC. That's on Queer POC.
That's on industry. That's on putting us right in front of your face.
Right. Yeah.
You know, like there's career stuff, there's achievements, there's like industry acknowledgement, but the two of you, maybe behind closed doors, but you don't seem to have a problem being 10 toes down in it, about it, and, you know, always standing in it. Do both of you sometimes feel a conflict between industry accolades, whether it's because it's necessary to get what you need to get, or whether it's a personal sort of thing, versus community support? Do you find it hard to balance industry accolades versus community support?
Yeah.
Those faces. Those faces.
I like the answer is yes. I mean, I have opinions about industry accolades and, you know, like that being kind of like the standard that we're all supposed to be aiming for. I have gone through the motions of understanding that that is not what's important about the work. What is important is that it reaches community, it's for community, it's by community, and that is what is most important, I guess, just speaking for myself, for me, not so much the awards. I think what I like about the awards and the accolades is that helps, you know, people like Wendy who are up and coming and fucking killing it. Like obviously the industry will look at the awards and that's what they look at to like, you know, put us on the hierarchy in the industry, but that's not actually real. Like what's real is what the work is doing. And so, yeah, for me, community comes first. And the accolades are like, you know, sure, like happy to go there, but the priority for me is getting this in front of as many people from community as possible.
Yeah, look, the accolades, yeah, it's interesting because, you know, because being an actor as well, there is a part of, I guess it's the actor in me that it looks towards that, but also first and foremost, I'm an artist. And so I always, to me, it's about the story and the creation of something that is beyond me. And so I mean, I think the accolades are like a plus. Like it's just like, okay, that's great.
Yeah.
However, I know that this is important. I know this is good for myself. If I've written something for long enough, a part of me is like, no, now this story or this play or this series is going to go on and do its thing. And that's now beyond me, and it's going to go out and live its own life. I don't necessarily own it in that way, because these people, these that the journeys that they're going on is going to happen. And it's nice to get the accolades, but it's also, I think it's more important for me that that my community, our community, see it and like connect with it and feel that that we can be in these places, that we can walk into it and sit in our power and own it and live these crazy chaotic lives, and that we're not, on the fringes looking in. Like, I mean, we are the culture. Let's just get it. Sorry.
It's true. Yeah, then the accolades are great, but they're not everything.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, we don't, that's not what I'm striving for, is like to win awards. Like that's great because it helps people and all the rest of it, but it's like, that's not the goal. The goal is to be meaningful, powerful, impactful content that is going to change things,
Yeah. And this is definitely like for another day, but it was more to get it where we need to get it. So who needs to see it? It needs that sort of validation from structures that weren't even ours.
Yeah, it's very tricky. Yeah, that's which is, I'm like, I understand why there is that desire or that drive to get that validation, or to at least kind of bring it to that place where we are on the same as everyone else. Like, our stuff can be taken seriously, our stuff can be good. And so I understand that it's a very delicate so it's you and honestly, you go back and forth. You go back and forth with it. Some days you want to be able to be nominated, or you want to be able to access a certain thing or be seen in a certain way, because you're just as good, or sometimes you're better. And then other days it's like, you meet an auntie on the street and they tell you like, and that is everything. That's all the awards in that one interaction. You know what I mean? So it's you just like, ask me a different day, it could change. It could change.
But it's definitely the framing, and it's also coming back to the lens, and we are the lens, and that's where the validation, or that's where the sort of support is so important. And I guess this is like the rallying sort of war cry of, what can we as audiences, as Pasifika people, do to support this and ensure it gets to the point of the 30-minute pilot to the next stage?
I mean, of course, just to share it and tell us what you think. Like, that's really all it is just like, watch it, hopefully you love it. If you don't, that's okay as well. But yeah, I think like feedback's always great too. I personally love it. I love to see, what people loved, what, people had questions about, all that fun stuff is great. But I think, for the most part, it's just about supporting and sharing as much as possible.
Yeah, just I think for me, it's just knowing that it's landing where it's supposed to land. Because oftentimes, I mean, I was like growing up in PNG in Madang. Shout out to Madang. Like, I didn't know if it was possible to do this. It was possible to one day be able to like see Papua New Guineans on TV or on stages, and being able to have that reach, right? Or someone in the islands to be able to like watch something like Bad Answers and be like, yo, I can be random and chaotic as well, like, or like, for a millennial to be like, maybe I'm not so much of a fuck up. This is like, and I'm like, it's real life, guys. There's a lot of us out there that don't know what the hell we're doing. But I think like, just being able for community to really kind of just connect, and if you love it, we love it. If you don't love it, that's okay too. Guess what? It's there, and it's there. It exists, and that's the main thing. Yeah.
We don't need to go into a lot of detail, but it's so textural. Bad Ancestors, and it's so like, it's just banger after banger in such a short sort of format, because we follow a protagonist, Eric, and I'm not going to get into like a lot of detail, but even the premise of auditioning for or on behalf of or a piece of Shakespeare, for example, in a way that isn't reflective of our experiences, but it's a way to pander and make it digestible and consumable for white people.
Yeah, sorry, I'm like, yeah,
Well,
yeah,
yeah, facts.
yeah,
Like we did that, yeah.
we did that. And let me just say, since we're here and, you know, we've kind of been relatively spicy this whole thing, that is actually based on a real life experience that I had.
I'm not surprised.
And so I was like, surely I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one. And so I remember having that said experience, and I was like, I'm gonna write about this one day, because it is wild that A, this shit happens, but B, it's also kind of like comedy gold in there. I think like there's a lot of things that we can, and you know, we use comedy as a way to be able just to deal with like things that happen to us unsolicited. And I think that's really where like a lot of the stuff that, well, the gems that I find, you know, truth is often stranger than fiction or more ridiculous. So yeah, just always to kind of start from that place.
Which is why representation is so important, because people who have experienced this haven't seen that portrayed on screen before and can't share in that and heal with that content. And so I think like that's definitely what stood out for me, even first reading the pitch decks, let alone the scripts, is like all of this is so relatable for so many people, yet has made it. Like, where is that representation? Where is that experience being shared on screen? It's not.
Yeah.
So that is, definitely what I hope audiences connect with in some way. And I think they naturally will, because, what we do cover in the series is a lot of BIPOC shared experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I think a lot of us in some sort of instance has experienced that. Maybe not in an art space, maybe in a corporate space. And it's like, yeah, been there. Been there, feel it, let's laugh about it, but also pull them up.
Yeah, it's like something that's so like walking into a room. You know, why people get to just walk into a room and that be it, you know? And I think like have this, for us, there's so many, as you said, textures and nuances to be able just to do such a simple thing as occupying a space in a workplace, you know, it's just, and I think like seeing that in Eric, I'm hoping, and I think that a lot of people will relate to that.
Before I get to the last question, is there anything that I haven't covered today, or in regards to just how people can watch it, or just in general that you want to add?
Yeah, I'd like to add as well, like I think initially writing Bad Ancestors, one of my things that I really wanted to explore and also really share with anybody that came across this is the relationship of that we have with First Nation mob here on so-called Australia. And a lot of my friends growing up were Indigenous people, because I grew up in far north Queensland. And so a lot of my besties are Black and First Nation. And so the story between Nora and Charli is about where you have this sort of cross-cultural relationship, and also that we don't see very often, and that this understanding that they are also part of the Pacific. So I really wanted to be able to create this thing where we could all come together on this and be able to share that together and celebrate it. And I think that's something that I have been wanting to see on screen and on stage for a while, because it was so much. It is so much of my life is my relationship with my best friends and where they're from and how we connect with each other and in our shared experiences. And I think we as communities coming together on that and being that we are all Pacific Islanders. And so I think I just wanted to kind of like be able to express that.
I love that. Yes, that was a huge part of the making of Bad Ancestors. Shout out Joseph Althouse, who performs Charli on the show. And I mean, I'm obsessed. Like, I'm obsessed with them. I'm obsessed with Charli, Nora. I'm obsessed with Joseph and Wendy. This is people as characters, all of it. Yeah, I think that's super important just as we navigate the industry, navigate our lives on stolen land.
Yeah.
So, you know, always keeping in mind our First Nations brothers and sisters when we're operating in any space. And obviously in the arts and what we're doing, that's always going to be front and center. So period.
It's that collective mana, collective love, and collective joy.
Yeah, and I think it's the industry will want to separate us. Society will want to, you know, put us into different groups, boxes, and history will the history that they write will say that we're all disconnected from each other, but we're not. We know that we're not. And our own history, our history
That's right.
has told us that we're not.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's always been about coming to that and really celebrating, but seeing it. I want to see it. I want to feel it. And I hope more people will want to as well.
Thank you both so much for your time. I've had a great time and I would love to keep talking, and I hope we continue to keep speaking and just like loving and having joy. I think that's so important as well. But
thank you to you. I want to give you your flowers. Thank you for putting on for our people. You do incredible work and we really appreciate you. And thank you for this. Thank you.
Okay, I wasn't ready for that. Like
the hardest working people doing
Right.
in your area, Katie, honestly. Yeah, like we see you.
We see
Like,
you and we appreciate you.
NOT,
and
we see you both.
And we are grateful for your presence and for you doing what you do for all of us. And so, yeah, for that.
It's so important.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're grateful.
Thank you. But like other Pasifika women, I find it hard to accept praise and love, but I will work on it. I will work on it. But I love you so much and thank you. We finish our reviews with a recommendation. So what would you pair with Bad Ancestors as a double feature, whether it's a TV show, film, documentary, anything?
Oh,
Yeah, that's tough.
that is
While you're thinking, and I'm glad you didn't mention it throughout the interview, black comedy.
I was going to say that. That was going to be what I was going to say. I was going to whisper it to you so that we could both be like, yes, we know. We talked about this before. I mean, black comedy was always a reference point in the pitch.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like it was, I mean, that was quite a trailblazing series.
Yeah,
I would say.
100. Well, that's a really good question. And it's thrown. I'm like, what could I pair it with? No.
I mean, you should pair it with Wendy's other show, I'm Fine. It's fine. I'm saying that wrong, aren't I? It's Fine, I'm Fine. It's fine, I'm fine.
It's fine, I'm fine. Yeah.
A show that Wendy starred in.
No. Yeah, black comedy. Black comedy. I was trying to think like something else as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely. Yeah, black comedy is iconic.
Yeah.
And I mean, shout out to that whole creative team that came together on that and created this magic in our canon that we can relate to.
That's right.
And so let's land with black comedy.
Okay.
Shout out to that canon. Yeah.
Well, Malo Aupito, on behalf of OT, Asante Sana, thank you so much for your time. And let's continue to love on each other. Friends and lovers, make sure you support Bad Ancestors when it comes out as well. But thank you so much, Wendy and Jess. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, True.
Thank you. Mwah.